I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done. Girls with their
What's going on, guys? It's Rest, and in today's video I want to go over a Iron Bear only Moze build. This build is going to be absolutely insane for bossing and absolutely insane for mobbing. When I tell you that you're going to be able to kill bosses in a second or two, or honestly even less than that, I am not joking. Almost every boss in this game is going to just get instant melted with this build that I'm running. Now, like I said, this is also a mobbing build, and it's super fun at that. You have multiple options, and we'll get into all that in this video. But if that interests you, as always, my builds are located in my Discord channel if you would like to download them. Link to the Discord will be in the description. If you download the build, enjoy the video, or find it helpful in any way, consider dropping a like and subscribing. It's free, and it's what allows me to keep making videos like this for you guys. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoy the build. Alright, so as you see here, we have very minimal gear, and that is because you don't really need much for this build. The only main items you really need is your class mod and your shield. But for weapons, I'm going to be running a execute right here. And if you don't know what the execute does, essentially when the magazine is completely empty at 0 bullets, you can reload this gun and it's going to apply a 50% debuff to an enemy. This is really good for bossing, and if you want to throw this on an enemy before you get into your suit, it's going to let you immediately destroy them faster than you originally would. Now, same thing right here for the Zev's Eruption. This is another debuff gun. The way this one works is when you have your gun overheated, it's going to shoot out these little missiles that are going to apply debuffs to enemy. And if you apply all the missiles, I think it's around 120% debuff if I'm correct. It's an insane debuff, and you can absolutely melt bosses with this as well. Now, to be fair, you don't need to do either of these to melt bosses or just any enemy in the game, but they're gonna make it faster, and this is what's gonna get you just the instant kills, you know, on whatever boss in the game. Now, I have a flipper right here. This is probably one of Moze's best weapons, but the flipper is really good for when you get out of your suit. As you see, after X Iron Bear, kills increase, Iron Bear's cooldown at 30%. This is really good. This build is all around being in your Iron Bear, so I'm running this anoint on the flipper, so if we do manage to get out, we can use this to kill enemies and get our cooldown back really quick. Hopefully, this will never have to happen if you're playing right, but it's there just in case it does happen. Finally, I'm running an EMP5. This is simply for movement speed. I'm going to try to get on the map as fast as possible. So since Iron Bear moves really slow, once you get out, if you clear an area, you can swap to this, go really quick, get to the next area, and then get back in Iron Bear and go again. But for the main thing for this build is the class mod, and that is the Raging Bear class mod. If you don't know, when Iron Bear kills an enemy, it's going to gain decreased fuel usage, which is really good to stay in the Iron Bear for a long time. And when Iron Bear takes damage, you gain increased damage, which makes Iron Bear absolutely insane. Now we have 36% splash damage, 34% splash damage radius, and 39% actual cooldown rate. All these are really good for pretty much every augment you can run on her, which we will get into augments in a second when we get into the skill tree. But this, just know this is going to be insanely good for what we are doing. Now for the artifact, I'm running a Snowdrift Deathless that is going to pair with one of our skills in our skill tree, and the Snowdrift is going to make us move faster to pair with the EMP5 so we can get around the map like I was saying. This is giving you area effect damage, 62% magazine size, and 30% actual cooldown rate. Area effect damage is essentially splash damage. Cooldown rate is really good for Iron Bear. The magazine size doesn't matter that much, but that's just what's on it. So then I'm running an It's Piss so we can apply debuff to whatever enemy that we're going against. And also in Grenade Throw, you get more weapon damage, grenade damage, and axial damage. This is really good. The same thing for bossing. If you use one of these and then you pair it with an It's Piss, that boss is going to get absolutely destroyed by Iron Bear. To finally get into the shield, I'm running a Plus Ultra. This is a new DLC shield, and we have an anoint while after exiting Iron Bear, you gain 75% increased shields and health for 25 seconds. The Plus Ultra is really good for this because Iron Bear's health bar is essentially Moze's health bar. You know, they just amplify that and put it into armor. So the more health you have as Moze, the more health you're going to have as Iron Bear. So with this, obviously the Plus Ultra gives you an insane amount of health. You're going to have an insane amount of Iron Bear health, and if you have this anoint proc, you're going to go from like around 2 million health on Iron Bear to almost 5 million. It's actually kind of ridiculous, the amount of health you can get. You honestly might be able to get it to 5 million if you have like an increased health on your artifact, but unfortunately I don't have that. But if you do, you might be seeing 5 million. But this build right here alone sits around like 4.7 million health, which is absolutely insane. Now before I get into the gear really quick, I want to mention one thing is if you can run Speed Demon on this build, Speed Demon actually increases the movement of your Iron Bear. So when you're getting kills with Iron Bear, your Iron Bear is now going to move faster than what it normally does. And I would highly recommend trying to get this in your Mayhem mode modifiers, because it makes Iron Bear even more fun than it already is. But now getting into the skills, obviously this is an Iron Bear build, so this is the main thing that you're going to be running this build. The gear doesn't matter anywhere as much as the skills do, other than maybe the class mod. But starting off, we're going to start in Demolitionist Woman. We're putting 5 points of fire in the Skeleton, so we get 15% bonus scenario damage whenever we do splash damage, which is really good. If you don't know, this does scale to Mayhem mode, and you can get insane damage numbers with fire in the Skeleton. And for 5 points, you really need to take this skill. Next, I'm putting 3 points in Deadlines, which is getting buffed to 5 with our class mod. This is letting your Iron Bear weapons drain less fuel, and when you kill an enemy while Iron Bear is active, you get fuel back. So essentially, you're losing less fuel, and when you kill enemies, you're getting fuel, which is absolutely insane. As you see, the class mod is getting buffed to 10%, and the fuel drain is minus 42%. This skill right here is what is allowing you to stay in Iron Bear like crazy. Now next, I'm putting 5 points to Stand Still Bear. This is giving you more Iron Bear armor, damage, and maximum fuel. This is another skill that's letting you stay in Iron Bear more. As you see, 32% more fuel, 48% more armor, and 32% more damage. Really good. Definitely need to take this if you're on an Iron Bear build. 5 points of total cross promotion, so we get 30% more splash damage and a 15% chance to proc a double splash damage radius. This is insanely good because, like I said, we're going to be running splash damage for the most part on all our augments, and this is going to help out with that a lot. 1 point in auto bear, so when we get out, Iron Bear will actually remain active for 15 seconds and keep doing damage. And while he's active, we can actually start regenerating our Iron Bear back, so we can have our Iron Bear back in case we get out of it and still have an Iron Bear up doing damage. Auto bear is definitely not a must-have, but it makes it really good, and it's just 1 point, so I would definitely recommend taking this. Finally, 5 points of Impure right here, and this skill right here, basically whenever most enemy with a grenade, you're going to restore 20% of your missing health, which is good, but we're not really worried about that. We're worried about the second part of this skill. This is when Iron Bear deals area damage or splash damage. Every enemy hit restores some of their health. So essentially, when you're just shooting with Iron Bear now, because like I said, we're going to be running splash damage style weapons, we're always going to regenerate health. Literally every single time we do damage, we're regenerating our Iron Bear health. And if you remember earlier from the Plus Ultra, we have an insane health bar. Then that is being added on top of Vampire right here, which is absolutely going to make you not die in Iron Bear. The only thing you can really die is if something just instant kills you out of nowhere, like a drop pod comes in or something. That's just unfortunate, but just the base game itself between mobbing and bossing, you are never going to die with Iron Bear, and it is absolutely insane. Now, before I get into more skills, I'm going to go over the augments really quick. This is totally up to you. When I say you can run every augment in the game, I mean that. I am not joking. However, I do have one recommendation, and that is the Vanquisher Rocket Pod. If you're going against bosses, definitely take this, and just this alone. Don't use any augments, because this thing just does an absurd amount of damage, which is actually kind of crazy. And you could also run the nukes, which is really fun. This is really good for mobbing and bossing, and in some scenarios the nukes can one-shot bosses, and they will obviously one-shot mobs. I honestly would recommend using the nuke for mobbing, because literally just shooting nukes everywhere and killing everything is absolutely insane. It's so fun. But if you don't want to run that, like I said, you can run absolutely anything. But now the main thing I'm going to run, and we'll get into Bottomless Max here, for mobbing is the minigun with explosive bullets. This is going to proc things like fire in the Skeleton, which is really nice, and it does a good amount of damage. It's really good for not using that much fuel, and I definitely recommend using this. But now, since we're already in Bottomless Max, I'm going to start here with the next skills. I'm putting 5 points of Cloud of Lead, so every fourth shot does not consume ammo, and we're going to get 11.25% bonus incendiary damage. This is really good. This is adding more damage to what you're already doing, and for 5 points, it's a no-brainer to take this. 3 points Stoke the Embers, so we get bonus incendiary damage. It's 30% bonus incendiary damage just in general, which is absolutely insane, because Fire on the Skag does incendiary, Cloud of Lead does incendiary, one of our other skills that we're going to get into in a second does incendiary, so this is just buffing all those skills to do more damage. 1 point redistribution, so when we hit a crit, we're going to ammo regeneration. The health regeneration doesn't really matter, but the ammo regen is going to be good because if you get out of Iron Bear and like I said, you need to get back into it, you can keep spamming the flipper and get kills. 5 points of scrap because I got to get down to the bottom, but this is giving you more weapon damage, more handling, more weapon slot speed, and more motion speed while moving. I'm not really going to be taking advantage of this, but I had to get down towards the bottom. If you want to take 1 point out of this and just have 4 and put 1 point in rush and offensive so you can kind of like make those work together, you absolutely can. Like I said, this is an Iron Bear focused build, so I don't really plan on ever getting out of Iron Bear to even make those two skills work. But 5 points of Scorching RPM, so we get 15% more fire rate, 20% more critical damage, and Iron Bear gets 25% more damage, which is really, really good. Obviously, you want as much damage as possible with Iron Bear, and that is the reason we're also going to be taking Specialist Bear. So when we use 2 of the same weapon types, we get 60% more Iron Bear damage, and that is another main part of this build. I always try to run 2 of the same weapon types. It doesn't matter if you run different augments, but if you want to run the minigun with 2 different augments, you can. If you want to run the salamander, which you can, with 2 different augments, you absolutely can. And this skill for 1 point is insanely valuable. Now, I have 1 point left over, so I threw it in some from the road right here. This is actually good for multiple reasons. If you ever need to boss as Moze, this is the bossing skill, obviously, for Moze. So, you know, if it's a last effort sort of thing, you need to swap to something, you have this skill just in case. But this is also really good for the flipper. When you get out, you're gonna have infinite ammo with the flipper, so you can just constantly get kills to get your cooldown back. But then finally, in the last skill tree, Shield of Retribution, the Railgun is the final thing I'll say you should probably take, especially for things like the takedown. You can run the Railgun with the Shock Augment and the Corrosive Augment, and you're gonna do an absolute insane amount of damage to armor targets and just insta kill a ton of enemies. And also, if you want to run the Bear Fist right here, unfortunately you don't have access to the last augment, but these 2 alone let you just one-shot enemies. Like when I say you can use every active skill and active skill augment in this game on this build, I absolutely mean that. Obviously, there's some things that stand out, like the minigun with explosive rounds, or the railgun with, you know, shock and corrosive augments, or even the Vanquisher rocket pod itself, or with the nukes. Those are probably the most standout ones, but if you want to run anything, you absolutely can. But for this skill tree, I'm putting 5 points in armor infantry, so we get more gun damage and more damage reduction when we have our shields up. This damage reduction is going to be nice because we're going to have a ton of shields. As you see, we're taking 3 points in Thyroid Lung, which is going to take 60% of our max health, put it into our shields to give our shield more capacity. And if you remember, we're going to be running the Deathless to give that shield even more. So we're going to have 1 health at all times. So we're going to have a huge shield with a lot of damage reduction. And we're going to have an insane Iron Bear health bar thanks to the Plus Ultra shield that we're running. I'm taking 5 points of General Brass. This is good for Moze when she gets out of Iron Bear to do a lot of damage to get those kills to get back into Iron Bear. But from things I've seen, General Brass does work with Iron Bear, so this is also a really, really good skill for that, especially if you're running something like the miniguns. You're gonna absolutely destroy with the skill, and it is also allowing us to get down to the bottom because other skills don't really matter as much. I have 1 point full cannon whoop ass right here, so this is gonna let your shields and everything start recharging the second you get into your Iron Bear. Honestly, if you want to take 1 point out of this and put it in Security Bear, I highly recommend doing that. You don't need Security Bear to stay alive, but it does help out, and it's going to give you more health. But between the Plus Ultra already having an insane amount of health and you regenerating health, you don't need that much survivability with Iron Bear. But if you want to take 1 point out of that, put it in there, I would totally understand why. 1 point experimental munitions, so whenever we hit a crit, we're going to get 15% bonus incendiary damage, which is absolutely insane because now when we do splash damage, we get incendiary damage, and when we hit crits, we do incendiary damage. And this stuff works with Iron Bear, so if you're critting with the Railgun, you're getting a ton of damage, and it is absolutely ridiculous. Then finally, 3 points in Desperate Measures, so the lower our health is, the more damage you're going to get, and this works with Iron Bear, so we'll get up to 50% damage, which we're always going to have because we're at 1 health. With our Iron Bear. So now we have a skill right here giving us 50% more damage with Iron Bear. We have this skill right here giving you 32% more damage with Iron Bear. We have this skill giving you 60% more damage with Iron Bear. And then this will give you 25% more damage with Iron Bear. The amount of Iron Bear damage you're getting is absolutely insane. And on top of that, our class mod is giving you more damage with Iron Bear. And every other aspect of this build is just helping out with, you know, generic splash damage, incendiary damage, which means more damage with Iron Bear. And you have things to heal you. And it is absolutely insane. I'm telling you, this build will get you through everything in the game, and you will never have to leave your mech. So that is the Iron Bear only Mo's build. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. I definitely recommend trying this build out. It is super fun. If you want to take a break from just using your weapons, well, this is definitely the build that you're going to want to run, because Iron Bear is absolutely insane. And it's crazy to think that when it first launched, Iron Bear was somewhat pointless other than just to stay alive or apply debuffs. But on Mayhem 10 level 65, it is now one of the best things to use to kill a ton of enemies or bosses just really, really fast. But that is going to do it all for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Try to bait, run away, don't go. I'm in hell, might as well just go.